If a dog has the instinct to point, that dog should have the instinct to back. And if you watched my video on how I like to start dogs on pointing, backing is very similar. To teach a dog to point, basically I continue to give them opportunity after opportunity to point by scent. And when they should but don't, then I release a bird from a launcher and say nothing. With backing, I continue to give them opportunities to back by sight. And when they should but don't, I release a bird from a launcher and say nothing. Now we'll be using live birds here, but this is a sight drill. This is not a scent drill. The backing dog will always be upwind of the bird and the pointing dog. And I set these backs up such that at first the pointing dog isn't seen until the dog suddenly comes around, you know, maybe a corner or maybe through an opening in the woods or the field. So it's basically, you know, the pointing dog's not seen, not seen, not seen, then all of a sudden, boom, there they are. So at that point, it's crystal clear. If the dog makes another step towards the pointing dog, that's an infraction and causes me to launch a bird. I recommend that you use a silhouette. It's just one more measure of control and allows you to focus on the backing dog and not have to worry about what's going on with the bird or the pointing dog. Silhouettes are available, backing silhouettes, pointing dogs silhouettes. They're available from a few of the internet supply houses, or you can make your own. I've made some from plastic corrugated poster board, and I've made them from plywood. And they can even be crude. They'll work even if, you know, if you're not an artist, I mean, they'll work even if they look somewhat crude, because if you've ever, you know, hunted with good backing dogs, you've probably seen times when they back something that didn't even remotely look like a pointing dog. I had a dog back an abandoned washing machine once, and just this year I had a dog back a Mylar balloon that lit into a small tree. When I start setting up my backs, I use the same location. So it's just same location, same location, same location until the dog starts to understand what backing is. Then I'll move it to a new location and I keep it there until they become pretty reliable at that new location. I always start check cording my dogs for backing work. It's just so much easier for a dog to back if they're going 2 or 3 miles an hour, you know, versus running full bore. And there's a transition between check cord and no check cord. And all I do is I check cord them near the area, and just as we're about ready to maybe come around that corner or come through that opening I talked about, then I'll just drop the check cord and just let them just kind of drag it and go on in. When a dog has a full understanding of what backing is, that understanding used in conjunction with a solid whoa foundation, you know, especially one where you can enforce it with an e-collar, and then suddenly you got the tools in place where, you know, you can insist on a back. And then you can start rewarding the dog. You can set the dog up so that the dog backs, and then you can insist that they stay, you know, in the backing position until you go in, you know, flush, launch, you know, and then shoot a bird for them to retrieve. And then so all of a sudden, you know, you've rewarded them, and it just kind of, you know, it just keeps the training going where they want to continue backing. Okay. I start the video with 2 young dogs. You get to see their very first session on backing, and within, you know, 3, 4, 5 birds, each of them are starting to show an understanding. But stay to the end of the video, because I actually go through the entire process with a 4-month-old pup, a pup that does not know whoa, so we can't enforce that, and I don't teach whoa until a dog has had a full season of bird hunting. But you can see that she fully understands that when she sees a pointing dog, she is to stop and to stand. So lastly, if you have a bird dog, if you're thinking about getting a bird dog, if you enjoy, you know, hunting with dogs, working dogs, maybe field trialing with dogs, I would ask that you like and subscribe. And when you get to the end of the video, leave me a comment. Thanks. The taller greenery is what's grown up in and around a 6-foot-high fence. I check cord each dog down one side of the fence before turning 90 degrees where the pointing dog silhouette is positioned. And it's difficult to tell from the camera's angle when the dog sees the silhouette, but I launch the bird when I'm convinced the dog is looking directly at the silhouette but doesn't stop to back. It looks like she's going to back right here, but then gets distracted. I only move to make sure that I'm not blocking the view of the camera, but you should remain stationary at first to encourage your dog to remain stationary. The owner said she'll occasionally flag pointed birds, but watch the change in her intensity from this bird to the next. Look at her intensity now. Notice the slack in the check cord? Never hold a dog with a tight check cord. That's not a back. The dog has to decide to stop and stand on their own. I didn't think the dog would let me go into flush, but that is the next stage after they will stand still for a long time. See how I dropped the check cord? This is how I transition the dog from being check corded to running free of it. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. You shouldn't have to talk to a dog to get it to hunt after it's been afield a few times, but I do talk to this pup who hasn't spent much time in the field yet. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And there's no need to teach backing to extremely young dogs, but since this dog was already pointing, I did it to show that it can be done since you're applying zero pressure. Here she looks around showing a little uncertainty, which is fine for her age. Here I am trying to transition from check cord to no check cord, and I actually thought she would back if I dropped the check cord, but no such luck. Let's go. Come on. Just like with the Silhouette, it's helpful to set up your first drills with an actual dog in the same location too, to simplify it for the backing dog. Let's go. When they back reliably on the check cord, they're broke, right? Wrong. Here she is, starting to put it all together. Pan and get them both, Debbie. I normally use the dog's name to turn them. Die! I could have launched the bird at either of these first two looks and that would have been fine. In fact, just like using launchers with pointing drills, launching birds when the dogs aren't expecting it is a good thing, as it teaches the dogs that these are wild acting birds and will fly if the dogs aren't careful.
Whoop.
All of these last drills were done with the older dog woed into a point. If you haven't watched my woe video, do so now. Many of the dogs that go through this program will woe just as stylishly as if they were pointing a bird.
Whoop.